Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'll show you all how to go about the sewing of this pencil short skirt you see right here with a basket weave design that is in an X shape. This is a 100% beginners friendly tutorial that you definitely don't want to miss out on. Continue watching this video to the very end. Do not skip any parts because the part you might skip might be the most important part with the most important detail. Continue watching and don't forget to subscribe, like, and also share this video. In case you have any question, you can drop that in the comment section and I'll gladly be responding to that. With all that being said, let's get started with today's tutorial. I already shared the drafting part of the tutorial on the channel, which I went ahead to give a detailed process on how to get rid of bulginess at the front part of your skirt, how to get your butt cuff in order to have this illusion of a bigger butt when you fix your zipper and all of that. So in this particular one, we'll be going about the sewing. Please kindly click the link in the description box. It will directly take you to the drafting part of this particular tutorial in case you are yet to watch that out. After drafting on the pattern paper, I went on ahead to cut out on my fabric. I also cut out my lining piece, which is black in color. I added half of an inch at the base of my skirt for joining allowance, and I also did the same at the top part. I also notched my dart, as you can see right there at the top part of this my skirt, and now I'm just basically going to start sewing. Because of this, I have to remove my pattern paper first. So for the front part, I'll be removing the pattern paper so that I can start joining my fabric and my lining piece together. So I'll be keeping the back part of my skirt one side so that I can focus on the front part as earlier stated. So the first thing I have to do for the front part is to actually stitch my dart. Okay, so I'm going to be stitching my dart by bringing that part where I notch this way. So if I fold it this way, I'm going to be marking half of an inch. And remember that the length of our dart for the front is 4.5 inches. I'll be doing the same thing for my fabric and my lining piece as well. So I'm done sewing or stitching my bias strip, which I'll be using to create this my design, and I already shared that already in the first part of the tutorial. So for the front basket we've designed, it is 16 lines that I have in total, which I will be working on right now. So I get my first bias strip and I'm going to be placing it on exactly this first line on this part right here. So when I place it, I'll just go ahead to pin it. So when I do this, I'll get another one and place it like this. So I'll be placing this my bias exactly the way the lines on this paper is, okay. And one thing I want you all to take note of is ensuring that they are overlapping, okay. Make sure they are overlapping, like the edges are actually overlapping each other, and by so doing you'll be able to have your strip very stable. I'm going to be stitching exactly the way I have pinned this on my pattern paper. I have done one part for the front, you can see what it looks like, so I'll go on ahead to complete that of the back. Like I said, exactly the way I am placing this on these lines, I'll be stitching directly on the middle and make sure it is overlapping, because when it overlap, by the time I remove this my pattern paper, it's going to be stable, okay. So please just take note of that. I'll continue doing this till I get to the very end of this my paper. Remember, whatever you're doing for the front part, you're also doing for the back part. So when I was done with all of these, this is what I have. This is for the front part, and be careful not to tear your paper because it's going to serve as a very important guide for you to get this perfectly, okay. So I've stitched my dart for the front part of my lining piece. So the right side of my lining piece now is facing the camera. I'll be placing this basket with design I have right here, the right side of it also facing the camera. Then I'll get my fabric, but my fabric now, the wrong side of my fabric is going to be facing the camera, meaning that this basket weave design will be in between the right side of my lining piece and my fabric. I will take it again. The wrong side of my fabric now is facing the camera, and this is at the base. So I'll just be pinning them together this way, as you can see I'm doing right here. So after pinning, I'm going to be stitching it down using just half of an inch. But firstly, I'll be cutting off that excess from that my basket with design. When I'm done stitching the base using half of an inch, I'll stitch the sides using quarter of an inch. Then I'll flip it to the right side from the waist. So everything I did for the front part of my skirt, I also repeated it for the back part of my skirt. This is the back part. I'm yet to join the two back parts together. We are still joining them separately. We'll use a zipper to join them together. Then for the front part, which is one piece, this is what I have. I turned it out from the waist and I ironed this very well. So be careful so your paper doesn't cut. So I measured out what I have now, the length of this my basket weave design, and I cut out this bias strip again that is of the same length. So I'm just going to be using it now to cover the base of this my basket weave design. Okay, so just watch what I'm doing. I will just open up that bias strip I have right here, and I'll make sure that this basket weave I have is in between this my bias strip. So I'm cutting off this excess. That's why I said that this pattern paper will be your guide. Please ensure that your own doesn't cut just like mine. So when I fix this now, you can see I'm putting this in between. When I put it in between like this, I'll now go on ahead and stitch this down. All right. I'll go on ahead to stitch this down. So when I'm done with that, this is basically what I have. I said whatever I'm doing for the front part, I'm also doing it for the back part. So when I was done, that is it. I now went on ahead to remove this my pattern paper because at this point it's no longer needed. So the next is to now join the front part and the back part of our skirt together at the sides. So right sides facing each other, you can see everything I have for the front part is the same thing for the back part. Please don't forget that. So at the sides, right sides facing each other, I'll firstly gonna go on ahead to pin them together. So when I'm done pinning, I'll be marking my sewing allowance. So remember that while drafting, the sewing allowance I was given to this was 1.5 inches. But because I already used quarter of an inch to join my lining and my fabric, I will just be joining them now at this point using 1 inch and quarter. Okay, because quarter of an inch have been used already initially to join the lining and the fabric together. I hope you're not confused at all. So the next thing is to measure around the waist so that I can get the waist circumference. When I measured it out, I went on ahead to cut out this long piece that is up to the length of my waist circumference, and in wideness it is 2.5 inches. You can go on ahead and iron an interface into this band. Okay, so when I was done with that, now the right side of this my band facing the right side of the waist of my skirt, I'll go on ahead now to pin this right here. When I'm done pinning, I'll go on ahead and stitch this down using just half of an inch. So when I'm done fixing or stitching this together, I will now fix my zipper first. Okay, so just watch. I'm done fixing or stitching this band to my skirt before fixing my zipper, as you can see right here. I believe that we all know how to fix our zipper, right? Yes. So now I'm going to be opening this my zipper right now. I'll be getting the second band because you need to cut out two pieces of this band. So I'll be getting the second band. Don't forget to iron your interfacing to your band. Okay, now the right side of this my band will be facing the right side of that first band I already have stitched to my skirt. Okay, so when I'm done with that, at that top part I'll stitch it all around using just half of an inch, which I've actually gone ahead to do behind the camera. So when you get to that zip part, you're just going to cut off the excess you have and also cut off this excess zipper at the top part. So after stitching this round, I mean for the second band, on your zipper you're going to be stitching it straight down. Okay, just straight down from here down, but you're not going to be stitching the second band entirely. You'll be leaving about half of an inch so you can use it to close or to turn up the rough part of your waistband. Okay, so this is what I am doing right here. If my explanation is not so clear, just watch everything I'm doing. I believe it's 100% very clear. So when I now trimmed off this excess I have on that zipper area, I went on ahead now to flip this my band to the right side of my fabric. So after flipping, this is what it looks like. It's not going to relax yet because I did not iron any interfacing yet, but I'll be working with my hemming gun and my um iron. So I'll arrange this properly and go on ahead now to start ironing this so that it can be flat. So I'm just going to be sprinkling water here and I use my iron to do this. So be generous with this, okay? So now I've achieved a flat band. I'm simply going to go ahead now to now use the half of an inch under my band to fold in like this. So if you do not iron an interface into this, you're going to be having a slight difficulty doing this. So because I don't always work with an interfacing, I always make sure my hemming gum is available. I do this by actually getting my hemming gum. I'll raise this my band, I'll put my hemming gum in between, then I'll go on ahead to fold in that half of an inch on top of this my hemming gum. Be careful so that you do not actually iron out your hemming gum because it easily burns out. So when I fold in that half of an inch top of my hemming gum, I'll simply go on ahead to now iron, and it will be very flat and neat, and it's going to be very easy when you are now about stitching the band for the very last time. So basically, when you are done ironing like this from one part here all the way to the other end, you're not going to go ahead now to also run a stitch, because your hemming gum might pull off at any time, especially when you wash your dress countless times. Okay, so when you're done doing this, the essence of this particular one I'm doing is to achieve a very neat finishing, since I didn't iron and interfacing to my band. So this is what it looks like when I was not ironing my hemming gum. So the next thing is to just run a very straight stitch from one side of the waist all the way to the other side, and that will be all for today's tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all in my next one. Bye.